What does Liberica coffee taste like in a cup? If you think you've tasted everything, get ready for a surprise. Its profile is unique, smoky, spicy, with notes of chocolate and jackfruit. In the mouth, it has body, sweetness, and bitterness, but its flavor changes dramatically with roasting and preparation. Compared to Arabica coffee, which is sweeter due to its higher sucrose and lipid content, Liberica coffee has a distinct character. Robusta coffee is more potent and bitter, with almost twice the caffeine. Liberica coffee and Excelsa coffee sit in the middle, with reference caffeine levels of 1.4% and 1.2% respectively. Their chemistry explains those very particular smoky and fruity notes. Why is Liberica coffee so rare? Its global volume is tiny, though it is growing. Is it stronger than an Arabica? In caffeine, it's similar. In flavor, yes, it can be very intense. Is it bitter? Only if it's roasted or extracted too much. A good process reveals sweetness and fruit. Always pay attention to the species, process, and roast. Why choose Liberica coffee? To expand your palate with unique flavors and support agricultural diversity. How do you roast and grind to get the best out of Liberica coffee? I'm going to give you the key that separates someone who tries Liberica coffee once and dismisses it from someone who says, wow, this is a whole different ballgame. Let's start with roasting the beans. If you're aiming for lovely notes like caramel, fruit, and sweetness, practical and sensory evidence strongly points to well-executed light roasts. In studies with Liberica coffee, it was observed that as the roast level increased, intensities like smoky, roasty, bitter, astringent, and body also grew, while caramel, fruity, and sweet intensities decreased. Also, the combination of a light roast plus a pour-over filter method was the most preferred. That doesn't mean a dark roast is wrong, it means it will push you towards a harsher and more polarizing flavor profile. Now, for grinding the coffee. Liberica coffee is a challenge for a physical reason. The beans are very large and asymmetrical. In barista circles, two things are emphasized: aiming for uniformity with a decent burr grinder and often going for a grind that's a bit coarser than what you'd use for a similar Arabica coffee. Why? To avoid boosting bitter and astringent flavors or creating too many fines. It's not a strict rule. It's a sensible starting point. For extracting Liberica coffee, you can use 3 different techniques. First, water temperature. Stay within the typical range for filter coffee, between 90 and 96 degrees Celsius. And be extra careful not to go over the temperature if your coffee already has a very smoky flavor. Second, the ratio of water to ground coffee. A very common reference point is around 55 grams of coffee per liter. Adjust to your taste. Third, adjusting the extraction. If you want a balanced cup, the most common range taught in the barista world is between 18 and 22% extraction and approximately 1.15 to 1.35% total dissolved solids. If this sounds technical to you, perfect. Liberica coffee rewards control. The ideal coffee maker for barista recipes. It's best not to start with the prettiest coffee maker. Start with the coffee maker that lets you control and repeat. To discover Liberica coffee without fighting with it, the friendliest way is usually coffee made with a filter cone and paper. That combination, with a light roast, has been very well rated in sensory tests. The basic recipe: a 1:16 to 1:18 ratio, and water between 194 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit. And adjust the grind so the flow doesn't get stuck or run too fast. If you like French press, use it. But be aware of its tendency. It gives body and texture, but it can also amplify the dense and smoky notes if your roast is medium dark and you go over the contact time between the water and the ground coffee during extraction. Your coffee will taste like wet wood and be too bitter because the water has been in contact with the coffee for too long. Don't blame the Liberica variety. Lower the temperature, grind coarser, and cut the time short. What baristas do when they want to put on a show. There are 3 very common ways. 1. The pour-over, which is a method of making coffee by pouring hot water manually over ground coffee in a filter to get more aromatic transparency and fine control of the extraction. 2. Espresso with milk. The creaminess of the milk can do something magical. It rounds out the sharp edges and turns Liberica coffee into a tropical, ripe, fruit smoothie-like profile. Very easy to love for someone who tries Liberica coffee for the first time. 3. Cold brew, which is coffee made with cold water for many hours. With a very coarse grind of the coffee beans and concentrated ratios, approximately 100 grams of coffee per 1 liter of water, or 100 grams per 1.2 liters of water. It's left to steep for 14 to 16 hours to achieve more sweetness and a smooth finish. In the world of coffee, a blend means combining different coffees from different places or types to build a more complex and balanced flavor. The million-dollar question would be, can you make blends with Liberica coffee? Yes, and it makes total sense. Even with a small amount of Liberica coffee, it can change the mouthfeel of the whole mix when blended with another coffee type. It brings roundness and presence. Excelsa coffee is also often mentioned as the coffee that adds depth and complexity, especially when you want a darker finish, but with a fruity spark. And Robusta coffee is also a classic in blends when you're looking for intensity and a specific structure. I'm leaving you with a challenge. From one coffee lover to another, if you can get your hands on some well-roasted Liberica coffee and brew it carefully, the first thing you'll probably say is, wow, this is nothing like what I usually drink. And in the world of coffee, that's a true blessing.